Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, I have a very special thing planned for all of you here in attendance, and I have wanted to do this for quite some time, but I have been very busy absorbing what perhaps some would say was way too much information, because this rabbit hole we'll talk about tonight is dark and deep. And tonight I'm going to attempt to climb out of this one. And hopefully I will not be returning to this rabbit hole for quite some time. Tonight, parts of this may seem like a stream of consciousness, and yes, parts of it will, because having absorbed and taken in so much information in the past few years, at least since 2016, on this very topic, I will be unloading, if you will, tonight. Tonight, I will unburden myself, and thank you for indulging me with the place to do so. So tonight, I unburden myself and my mind from this burden. It is a strange and sudden realization that maybe, just maybe, we are all being played. Tonight, we'll be talking about what some call the UFO file, which many believe contains the core secrets, the materials, the technology, and all those beautiful secrets about extraterrestrial life and them visiting Earth. These are valuable secrets. So valuable, in fact, that in declassified Canadian documents, the American UFO secrets of the United States were called higher in classification, priority, and importance than even the atomic or nuclear secrets. This document and others supports the belief many have that the secret of extraterrestrial technology and visitation on Earth is the biggest secret being withheld by the United States government, and with them their co-conspirators, other countries in the world who have evidence of or even proof of extraterrestrial visitation on Earth. Now, so some say that these secrets are more important even than nuclear secrets. And the UFO file is at the highest classification. We have heard people say it is, depends on who you ask, many layers above top secret. I'm not sure if I believe that, but one thing I am sure of is that the United States government has, for some 70 plus years, been interested in and involved in what some would call a cover-up. So tonight, we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to unleash or unload all that I have absorbed in this deep, dark rabbit hole. Why are the government withholding the secrets? Why are the government actively manipulating United States citizens, journalists, podcasters, and more? There is a term that I have heard. I think it was coined by researcher, dark journalist. The term is ex-protect. And this is the group that many say is in charge of protecting those incredibly valuable, highly classified secrets of alien and UFOs on Earth. But I think that the term X-Protect is quite inadequate to describe that group and all of their functions, some of which we can prove historically. I believe that X-Protect is an inadequate term because besides protecting the UFO secrets, there is also, I believe, a secret organization that is charged with deflecting people away from the real truth. And we will see ample and supportive evidence of that very conspiracy tonight. Because these are the people in the neighborhood, friends. All government employees or former government employees from one alphabet soup agency or another. Alphabet soup agency is a term I first heard by researcher Stanton Friedman, and it fits. What's an alphabet soup agency? All of them. It's the DIA, the CIA, the NSA, NASA, SETI, and more, maybe. It would include officers from Air Force intelligence, most notably one Richard Doty, Navy intelligence, Army intelligence, and more. Now, interestingly, starting in 2016, we began to see something incredible, because until 2016, all of the X-Protect group, X-Deflect group, some would call them MJ-12, whoever is in charge of these core secrets and keeping them, all those people had been in the shadows, pulling strings, manipulating people without being seen or known about by members of the general public. We see famous cases of this, including Bill Moore and Richard Doty in the 1980s, actively admitting to manipulating, investigating, and some would say driving crazy United States citizens with stories of aliens, extraterrestrial visitation, alien spacecraft, underground bases, crashes, debris, even bodies. So these are the people in the neighborhood. And they've been in our neighborhood all along. We just haven't seen them. They have not been overt. They have been covert, clandestine, secret, in the shadows, pulling the strings and manipulating the UFO community for quite some time now. There is documented proof of this that goes back into the at least 1970s and 80s. So these are the people in the neighborhood. Again, all of them government employees or former government employees, some of them government contractors, which is just as good as being a government employee. They are working for the system. But starting in 2016, we began to see overt, not covert, infiltration of actual CIA officers, agents, and assets being publicly, overtly deployed into the UFO community. And unlike the previous efforts, this was not clandestine, not secret or covert. Suddenly, these shadowy figures, once pulling the strings in the shadows, were now fully out in the open and overtly infiltrating, influencing, and manipulating the UFO community. And let me be very clear here in what I'm about to say. This is not this is not some crazy conspiracy. It's just not a conspiracy. This is established historical fact now. But knowing that this happened and continues to happen, one is left with an amazing question. Why? Why are they here? What are they doing here? What is their purpose here? What are their goals? Why are they publicly, overtly manipulating members of the civilian public, including journalists, content creators, YouTubers, podcasters, show hosts, television networks, movie and documentary companies, and more? What is their goal here? What is their purpose? Why would they do all of this and do it right out in the open? These are the questions I had when first entering this rabbit hole. And the rabbit hole runs deep, friends. And tonight we are going to go very deep down this rabbit hole. And I hope that as dark as this rabbit hole gets, I'll be able to shed some light on this. So thanks for being here. You are watching Truth Seekers. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank the chat room moderators for keeping it civil in there. I'm so happy to be with you here tonight. And I'm so happy that I get to unload this. It's going to be like a load off of my mind. It really is. So I want to start just with the Central Intelligence Agency. Despite what you may have heard about the CIA, I mean, many people honestly don't know very much about the CIA. What is its purpose? What is it for? What is its budget? Wait till you hear about their budget. It's known informally as the company. And I have heard the term company man. I was informed by a friend familiar with these intelligence circles much more so than me that a company man is a guy who works for the CIA, but it can also refer to somebody who works for the other cooperating agencies that cooperate with the CIA, including the DIA, the NSA, and more. So the Central Intelligence Agency's purpose is information gathering, usually by clandestine means. Its purpose also was to create a clearinghouse for foreign policy intelligence and analysis. Their stated mission, the CIA, is to collect, analyze, evaluate, and disseminate foreign intelligence and to carry out covert operations. And of course, they have priorities, one of them being counterterrorism, keeping track of nuclear weapons and the proliferation of nuclear weapons to foreign adversaries. They conduct counterintelligence and cyber counterintelligence as well. One might wonder then, what is an agency that's job supposed to be foreign intelligence doing actively manipulating American citizens? Is that legal? It depends on who you ask, but they're not supposed to investigate American citizens. They're not supposed to have anything to do with American citizens. But historically, they sure do. It's interesting to note as well that their budgets, although classified, are in the billions. The budget, 2013 budget, is said to be $14.7 billion. Billion with a B. And that was 2013. I'm sure it's much, much higher now. In 2005, a director of national intelligence a director for collection in 2005 said that the annual intelligence budget was $44 billion, which is interesting. That means they spend quite a lot of money on intelligence gathering. One second. Okay, so, their job is supposed to be foreign intelligence, but we see time and time again, especially since 2016 here in the UFO community, it's been quite a free-for-all. So we're going to begin. Why 2016? Because 2016 is when TTSA started, 2016, 2017. And TTSA was headed by Jim Semivan, a former undercover clandestine CIA operative, and a failing rock star, Tom DeLonge, as well as Lou Elizondo, former counterintelligence officer, Pentagon official, government contractor. Later, he'd become a TV star, right? As well as Hal Puthoff and others. All of the people, or many of them, involved in To the Stars Academy, besides Tom DeLonge, the failed rock star, were CIA or intelligence people. All of them had at various times. Hal Puthoff worked for the CIA on programs studying psychics and mind control and other paranormal things. And we'll get into Hal Puthoff some more because it's interesting. There's a great documentary about Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ working for the CIA and other government agencies developing psychic spies. It's called Third Eye Spies. But I have here a note from someone in the know and says the documentary is excellent, but conveniently leaves out that Hal Puthoff and Pat Price. Hal Puthoff was the scientist, and Pat Price was one of the psychics. That Hal Puthoff and Pat Price were involved with the Church of Scientology at that time. After the FBI raided the Los Angeles office of the Church of Scientology, among the documents they found were records of briefings that Price, the remote viewing psychic, a church member, had routinely given to a senior Scientology official about his Stanford Research Institute and CIA activities. These included descriptions of highly classified operations and the names of undercover agency personnel that Price had agreed in his CIA and SRI contracts to keep secret. So that's something else. And Hal Puthoff heavily involved in Scientology. Besides being a CIA asset, Hal Puthoff was a big, huge supporter of Scientology, and some say it destroyed his career. Robert Adair states in The History of Remote Viewing that Hal Puthoff dove deep into his Scientology belief system. Adair describes Puthoff as going as far as to co-write his own, quote, success story, unquote, in a Scientology publication. Hal Puthoff writes a success story for Scientology publication about having completed operating Theta level 7. And this is directly something that Hal Puthoff claimed. Hal Puthoff saying that on a weekend, he had stood outside a locked building and remotely viewed information he wanted from a building directory that he couldn't physically read from the doorway. He verified later that the building was open. When the building was open, that he had remote viewed, what he had remote viewed had been accurate. Great. So Hal Puthoff, former CIA scientist who has superpowers, apparently. You got to have the superpowers, right? So Hal Puthoff is one of the people who started TTSA with Tom DeLonge and Lou Elizondo and Jim Semivan. Now, this is an incredible change because up until this 2016-2017 period, the CIA, the DIA, the Alphabet Soup, the X-Protect Group, whoever was manipulating the UFO community, and by the way, there is historically there's evidence of them manipulating the UFO community in the 70s, in the 80s, and more. They did it clandestinely, though. They were invisible. They weren't seen or known or heard of, though there were whispers that CIA agents and government agencies would attend UFO conferences and even befriend UFO researchers like they did with Bill Moore and promise them information in exchange for a transfer. Bill Moore would spy on everyone in the UFO community. He admitted to this, and then report everything that the government op people wanted to hear about within the UFO community. He would go back and tell them, and they were going to share those secrets about the aliens. But Bill Moore never quite got any smoking guns from them, did he? Instead, he got used and manipulated to spy on his own friends and people in the UFO community. But again, all this activity previous to 2016-2017 period was always clandestine. It was under the radar. These ops were more secretive and not so public. I believe that in 2016 and 2017, these CIA ops involving the UFO community went public in the form of TTSA. It is not a rumor. It is not speculation that former CIA employees and operatives and agents were on the board at To the Stars Academy. And suddenly, we're all supposed to believe that the same government that has been manipulating people for 70 plus years, keeping these core secrets, protecting them and deflecting people away from the real truth, we're suddenly going to start a public benefit corporation that was going to bring us disclosure about aliens, that was going to give us the truth about all those aliens and crash retrievals and what's really going on. But what we got from TTSA was a lot of money grubbing and a lot of lies. And we will see that tonight. But before we see that, I have some proof of their absolute lie. They have lied in their own government filings to the Stars Academy. Literally lied in their own government filings, which, by the way, is a crime. And so is securities fraud. But what we will see as we dive deeper into this rabbit hole is that there can almost be no other explanation than these people being company men. Because if you or I commit securities fraud, if you or I stand up and promise investors a spaceship or some other thing that we have no ability or even plan to actually deliver to investors, and then we take in a few $1,000,000 in investor money and then we blow it apparently on, making hokey movies, we would be prosecuted. A normal citizen would be prosecuted. That's my belief. I'm entitled to my belief. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. A normal citizen would be prosecuted for what TTSA did here. But there has been no, to my knowledge, I've been told that there's an investigation for forever. There have been no arrests, no indictments, no announcements of arrests or indictments, no grand jury, to my knowledge. So this leads many people, including myself, to speculate that there must be some government protection to these operatives, former CIA, former DIA, former NSA, alphabet soup, all these former intelligence people, former CIA agent, former CIA scientist, must have the blessing or at least the protection of some government agency to be able to openly commit felonies and fraud without any consequences of their actual actions. Many people have speculated about that. And I believe that that's a surefire indicator that these are the golden boys. They can't be arrested. They were doing something for us. You know, there's got to be some reason why there has been no arrests, convictions, prosecutions for what is essentially a techno scam. They ran a techno scam. No one's prosecuted. No one is arrested. And again, this CIA psyop was public. This was not a secret. They didn't do this, in the shadows here. They were right out in the open. These former CIA operatives holding press conferences, doing podcasts, going on Joe Rogan, right? Well, Tom DeLonge did that. And boy, what a mess that was, right? Why do I not see what I'm looking for? 1 second here. I'm going to play for you a video from To the Stars Academy. We'll put our fair use banner up here. And this is fair use. It's a transformative work. We're critiquing the video that we're sharing. We'll be educating the public about the CIA's infiltration into the UFO community. And here is Jim Semivan. He is a CIA veteran and intelligence strategist. And like I said, something changed between 2015 and 2016, 2017, because all of this manipulation of the UFO community used to be a big secret. Now, with this TTSA op, they would be very public about their new role within the UFO community. And isn't it interesting that just so many people, a huge amount of people, we've always been taught that the government is lying to us about the truth about UFOs. 2016, 2017, a whole bunch of government spooks start a for public benefit corporation, invest, ask for money so that they can bring us disclosure, and suddenly we're going to believe the government now. You can't get the secrets that the government are withholding from us from the literal government agents that work for them, right? This made no sense to me why anybody would believe this situation. You're going to go get your UFO truth from a CIA spook, from a CIA scientist that has superpowers. None of this makes it from a former counterintelligence officer in the form of Lou Elizondo, who is, by the way, an expert at manipulating people. That's what they do. They lie to people. They manipulate people. Yeah. But let's get into this. This is Jim Semivan.
My name is Jim Semivan. I'm a retired CIA officer. I worked as a spy for 25 years in the CIA's clandestine service. Had a wonderful career there, enjoyed it very, very much. Was lucky enough to be a member of the Senior Intelligence Service. I currently consult with the intelligence community.
He's a member of the Senior Intelligence community, and he currently consults with them. In other words, he didn't really leave the CIA to go do this CIA disclosure thing. He's still consulting for them while he's bringing us UFO disclosure and begging for investor money. He still works for them. I've heard it said, once a spook, always a spook. You don't really retire. You don't really get out. They still use you. You're still an asset that they developed and put time and money and maybe education into, training. They don't let you go. Once you're in, you're in.
On a part-time basis. I was born and raised in Ohio. I went to school at Ohio State, got a couple undergraduate degrees, left and eventually went to San Francisco, where I got a master's degree in English literature at San Francisco State University. Working at the Central Intelligence Agency is a unique experience. You get in and you're very highly trained. You're working with a group of people that are usually very, very smart. They tend to be very, very bright, and from any number of areas. You can have somebody working next to you with a PhD in French literature, The young woman working on the other side of you has a master's degree in business, or perhaps a law degree. In the clandestine service, the training to be a spy, it's a lot of work. It can be a lot of pressure, particularly when you're starting out, because you're with a group of people that generally tend to be highly, highly motivated. And
apparently TTSA was highly motivated, right? They were going to bring us CIA. They were going to bring us CIA disclosure. None of this makes any sense. A guy that's a former spy for the CIA for decades is suddenly going to head a public benefit corporation that's going to bring us UFO disclosure. It just doesn't make sense. And to do it like publicly, like, hi, all you conspiracy guys that don't trust the government. Well, I worked for the government for decades, but don't worry. Now I'm going to bring you the truth about those aliens. Just invest, send me some money.
And so you have to sort of keep up with everybody. It's a lot of fun. They do train you very, very well. Working as a spy is always interesting. Somebody once described it as 95% boredom and 5% sheer terror, and I think that's pretty much accurate. They give you a lot of testing to make sure that you fit into a certain profile. So I was lucky enough to be in the clandestine service, and I had a very, very nice career.
And that, my friends, is a propaganda video. That's a propaganda video put out by To the Stars Academy. Look, we've got CIA undercover agents working for us, and we're going to bring you CIA UFO disclosure. It just that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But we've got more. And 1 second. I'm going to see if I can find this piece on Elizondo that we did some time ago, because I think it explains things much better. So the CIA op starts with TTSA, and they have former CIA scientists. They have former CIA undercover secret op guys. They have former counterintelligence officers. And they're all going to work together, and they're all going to bring us CIA disclosure. And I cannot tell you how many people in the UFO community welcomed them with open arms, sung their praises. You know, stupid people like UFO Jesus, the believer crowd. And there was a time that if you dared to speak out against CIA TTSA, you were threatened, intimidated, harassed, attacked with all kinds of troll accounts on Twitter. It had, to me at the time, I remember thinking, like, there can't be 25 people on Twitter or 50 people on Twitter that are such big fans of Tom DeLonge and TTSA that they will all jump all over you the minute you question. You know, I started tweeting things about, at the time, I was tweeting things out about some of the people's background that were involved with TTSA. Anybody that did that got hammered, right? And there seems to be this cult-like mentality that surrounded TTSA, protected them, welcomed them into the UFO community as some kind of saviors of disclosure. And it was an op. It's very clear now that it was, at the very least, a poorly planned techno scam. So the CIA disclosure op starts with TTSA. And in my opinion, the op started falling apart very quickly, because for one reason or another, they have failed rock star Tom DeLonge, who I'm told by somebody that once worked for him on a tour that Tom DeLonge spends all this time reading, you know, books about Bigfoot and UFOs and aliens and magic, and he believes everything. If it's in a book, it's true. And so Tom DeLonge would go on to a horrendous appearance on Joe Rogan, and he showed Joe Rogan 100% CGI fake videos as some sort of proof. Very quickly, the CIA pulled him, I believe, and they needed a new front man. This op always has had a front man, and we'll see that the front man for this op, the op continues to change and evolve. And so Tom DeLonge was out. You're done. You're not going to be the face of this thing anymore. And Lou Elizondo steps up, former counterintelligence officer. And he, talk about a Freudian slip. On a podcast, he literally admits that he was sent to infiltrate the UFO community, to apply his unique counterintelligence skills, to deploy those skills within the UFO community. And it's very troubling that he too was welcomed with open arms. In full disclosure, pardon the pun, I was attacked, my family was attacked, and more, just for questioning Lou Elizondo. People doxed me. They put my street name and the name of my wife and all kinds of things on Twitter. The cult-like mentality, I mean, I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but these people were so adamantly weaponized and convinced that Lou Elizondo was some sort of savior of disclosure, and how dare you speak against Lou Elizondo. I tried not to, but I got conspiratorial when all this stuff starts happening, and I start seeing these, I believe them to be brainwashed Manchurian candidate type people leaping to the defense of Lou Elizondo. And many of the people that he weaponized were literally committing crimes on Twitter. Doxing is a crime. You can't do that. Threatening people is a crime. It's terroristic threats. You can't make terroristic threats to people publicly. People were doing that, in my opinion, in Lou Elizondo's name and defense. And interestingly, Lou Elizondo has never spoken out or spoken about all of the attacks against one filmmaker in particular. And you know him, Manny from Area 503, or me. We notified him on Twitter that this is what his followers were doing, doxing Manny's girlfriend, threatening people, threatening me, coming in my chat room, threatening my family, doxing me publicly, right? Claiming that I was a felon when I indeed was not, spreading malicious rumors about people that were questioning Lou Elizondo's motive. No, again, another sign of an op. Normal people in this situation that publicly commit crimes and are stupid enough to do it right on the internet, out in the open, they would get prosecuted. No one's been prosecuted. Another surefire sign that someone is pulling the strings here and protecting people involved in this psyop. So let's hear a little more about Lou Elizondo when he lets his guard down and slips about the real purpose of him being involved in the UFO community.
It's about truth. It's about disclosure. It's about transparency. And if it means that I don't get my day in the spotlight, then that's okay, because it's not about that. It never was about that. I didn't leave the Department of Defense because I wanted my day in the spotlight. I left the Department of Defense, ironically enough, to finish the very mission they gave me in the first place. I didn't ask for it. I'm not a UFO guy. I'm not a ufologist. I never have been. I never will be. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. But I'm not a UFO guy. And so for me, it's all about the truth. whether I'm hunting a terrorist or a spy or a UFO, the bottom line is the truth is the truth. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community.
Interesting that he would freely admit that he was asked to apply counterintelligence and counterespionage skills into the UFO community. I couldn't believe when he said that. And I couldn't believe, again, there is a long history of the government becoming involved in the UFO community somehow, but it's always clandestine, covert, in the shadows, behind the scenes, invisible manipulation of the situation. Now we've got actual intelligence assets who are, first of all, he lied. Oh, well, I stopped working for the Pentagon. Yeah. And you never stop working for the government, though. He's still a government contractor. I was shocked and amazed at the brazenness of intelligence people saying, yeah, I was told to apply my skill set into this UFO community. The op stopped being clandestine in 2016. In my opinion, it became overt and very, very bold. I couldn't believe that he said those things. I couldn't believe that he publicly admitted this. I don't know if that was a mistake too. I wondered, did he mean to do that? Did he say that stuff on purpose? Like, really? So Lou Elizondo, for those unaware, lied to the New York Times. Or let's be clear. I don't want to get this Todd McGurtry threatening to sue me. I believe that based on all available evidence, he was the primary source of the 2016 New York Times article that began what I believe to be a CIA psyop and infiltration into the UFO community. And in that, he was the primary source of information in the article. And we now know that almost everything he told them was not accurate. Let's just put it that way. I won't call him a liar, but lots of factual inaccuracies in what he told the New York Times his role was working for this Pentagon UFO program that we now know it was never a program. Lou Elizondo was the new face of this CIA, what I believe to be a CIA psyop. So eventually, Lou Elizondo's story, people like me, good researchers, started investigating him. Manny from Area 503 did an entire documentary, Who's Lou? Look it up on YouTube. Great documentary. Lots of problems with CIA Lou. And thanks to the work of good and credible researchers, many people started calling him CIA Lou. And probably rightfully so. Now, what I have observed is some common traits among these people involved in what I believe to be the CIA threat op. Remember, they began to disseminate information, but we now know that almost all the information that they disseminated was false information, including what they purported to be UFO videos turned out to be nothing. Garbage. Certainly not aliens, certainly not extraterrestrial, likely Chinese drones and aerial trash. Great. So Lou Elizondo gave us absolutely nothing. But we're going to look at something here which is very important, going back to TTSA, and that would be more proof of them just outright lying to people. Even in their SEC filings, they straight lied to people. I believe it is illegal to lie on SEC filings, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a expert on these matters, but here is a TTSA SEC filing, and in it, we see what we now know to be complete and total lies. In December 2017, To the Stars Academy made history by leveraging its team's access to become the very first company to obtain official U.S. government footage of unidentified aerial phenomenon, quote, UAP, unquote, that had gone through the declassification process and been approved for public release. We now know that those 3 videos were never approved for public release. Never. They were for internal use only, like training purposes. I believe that those videos, it's my belief and speculation based on available evidence that Lou Elizondo probably should have known or had to know what those videos truly were, which I believe it was something for training purposes within the Pentagon. Oh, you know that UFO thing? Here, look at this. Yeah, it looks strange, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a drone. Oh, yeah, that looks strange, doesn't it? It's not what it appears to be, right? And though Lou Elizondo somehow got those videos released internally for internal use, they were never, ever approved for public release. So how did Lou Elizondo get those videos that were not declassified and approved for public release to a company he would then profit from with Tom DeLonge, CIA scientist Hal Puthoff, CIA officer, clandestine agent Jim Semivan, and others? This SEC filing goes on to say the footage was released on TTSA online community of interest, where we gave access to information analyzed by our team. Analyzed by our team of experts that educated viewers about the advanced technology depicted in the footage. Well, one can argue, are drones advanced technology? Not really. I mean, I can literally go to Walmart and buy a drone for $50. That's not advanced technology. What they claimed, sort of sideways claimed, that those videos depicted was aliens, alien spaceships, alien technologies. You've heard those terms. Couldn't have been created on this earth, right? We believe that this analysis by best-in-class experts is helping to change the conversation about UAPs from a fringe topic to a credible and serious subject matter, attracting headlines from mainstream media outlets around the world, including the New York Times, which Lou Elizondo lied to or misled incredibly, the Washington Post, who parroted the same false facts, Politico, ABC, NBC, Fox News, BBC, Scientific American, NPR, and CNN, all of which parroted and repeated the false claims made in the original 2016 New York Times article. False information given to them by primary source of false information giving Lou Elizondo. And this is very troubling because they literally lie in their SEC filings. These were never approved for public release. That is now a matter of public record. And somehow, Lou Elizondo got these videos out of the Pentagon. We have the admission, right, from Christopher Mellon, another government employee, former government employee, intelligence guy. Oh, he got them in the parking lot. Well, who gave you them? And why has there been no investigation or prosecutions over your perhaps unlawful possession of material that was not declassified and approved for public release? And how does Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo get to conspire together at the Pentagon and the Pentagon parking lot to get those videos out of the Pentagon and into the hands of TTSA, who would profit from them for years and years and years, get a television show based on them, books, right? Conference appearances, solicit public donations because they're doing the public good, right? It's very, very problematic. And again, a normal person like you or I would have been prosecuted for taking videos that were not declassified for public release, and then claiming that they had been declassified and approved for public release in SEC documents. You can't lie in SEC documents. They clearly did. This is a huge problem. And again, we come back to the thread of why is no one prosecuted here? Why is there no investigation? There would be if I did it. There would be if you did it. But these guys get a golden parachute pass somehow. And this, again, is strong, in my opinion. This is very strong circumstantial evidence that they have someone within the government protecting them while they execute this operation. Now, Lou Elizondo's story begins to fall apart. And thanks to the diligent efforts and investigations by people like me or Dark Journalist or John from the Black Vault or definitely Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post, Lou Elizondo's entire narrative has fallen apart. His whole original story we now know to be false, or largely false. Let's call it problematic at best. And so I believe at this point, the op pulls him back as the front man and sends in new guys to be the leaders or front-facing mouthpieces, if you will, of this op. And so what we get is someone named John Ramirez, another former CIA, supposedly retired CIA operative. And I have some videos here. Okay. And so, again, we have a common theme here of former CIA people or people who were contractors of the CIA, paid subcontractors, contractors. They had some relationship with the CIA, or they worked directly for the CIA. After Elizondo's story falls apart, the op starts to get very wobbly here. And then send in the clowns. They send in Gary Nolan and someone named John Ramirez, both of which, John Ramirez is a verifiable former CIA officer. And Gary Nolan, again, with another scientist who worked for the CIA. He has admitted. Now I have to let me be very clear with the language on Gary Nolan, or I'll get skewered again, but language is important. Gary Nolan admitted that people from the CIA came to him and asked him for his help with some situation of brain scans, right? And other strange and esoteric things that the CIA were studying, investigating, and he agreed to help them. So is Gary Nolan a CIA subcontractor? Did he get paid for that work for the CIA? Who knows? But he has admitted to working with or for the CIA. Then we have John Ramirez, retired CIA, spent decades working for the CIA. So we have these common threads that all lead back to the CIA for all of these people that are infiltrating the UFO community, that are manipulating people in the UFO community, that are spreading what I believe to be completely, totally false and fake information. And we come back to what Dark Journalist calls ex-protect. But are they protecting the UFO file as operatives, or are they deflecting from the real truth? I believe that a good part of this operation involves deflecting people away from the real core secrets, the real truth. And we can see evidence of that. But let me share this, and we will again cite fair use. I shouldn't even bother taking it down. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about former CIA officer John Ramirez, suddenly appearing in the UFO community. And by the way, one thing you'll notice is that all of these intelligence guys, CIA people, CIA contractors that are a part of this op, they run the gambit. They come and do all kinds of, let's call it, alternative media. And I don't mean, some of them are doing mainstream media. Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo is on Fox News, CNN, talking about, well, Gary Nolan was on Fox News talking to Tucker Carlson about UFOs. I believe that they manipulate and disseminate their false information everywhere they can, including the mainstream media, which has a bigger trumpet, bigger bullhorn. But faced with an inability to get their message through in mainstream media channels, they resort to the alternative media. And once Lou Elizondo's story began to completely fall apart, before it did, Lou Elizondo was on podcasts. So it seemed like every day Lou Elizondo was on another podcast you could listen to, repeating the UFO threat. It's a threat. We don't know what's in the skies. We need more funding. We need more funding. We need more funding. Another common thread that you will see with everybody pushing the CIA threat narrative that UFOs are a threat is that many of them are defense contractors and would certainly benefit from more funding over UFOs. What if that's their purpose, is to just fill their coffers with government money? All of them are involved in some type of consulting, shady business deals, all surrounding the defense industry. All of them, another common thread is that they're all saying there's a huge threat from these UFOs, and we need more funding, and we need Congress to investigate, and we need an office to investigate these things, and we need funding for the threat. It's a threat. We need more money. But let's get into John Ramirez here, who has made some incredible claims. And remember, he is a former CIA operative.
Specifically that. But they didn't provide any evidence, but they said this
after
is
World War II, yes, that they discovered that humans are hybrids after World War II. So in my mind, they said, okay, do we know of how we could have gotten alien DNA after World War II? And then I go, Roswell crash, bodies. Were there actually bodies recovered? Did we go back into the bodies and find evidence of their DNA and ours and theirs? I don't know. But the other officer who claimed that he saw the Roswell files, Chase Brandon, said, yep, there were like non-human intelligences recovered from the Roswell crash. He said he saw it. All of us are hybrids. Some are more hybridized than others. They told us that we know there are certain families that have been hybridized to a greater extent than others, and we will be following those families. And so I'm going with that, and that's a hard one to swallow. I understand. Yeah. Right, but I mean, I can't swallow it either. I'm just telling you, this is what I was told, and so that's a research point for others to research or to debunk or to not believe. I mean, it's up to you. I am very confident that the government is sitting on this, and in order to understand the UAP in its entirety, where it came from, why they're here, who's driving them, you have to go back to, like, what's our role? Why are they here talking to us? Why do they want to interact with us? And you have to get past, you got to build that bridge to the fact that we are hybrids, and we may have been hybridized by them, and they themselves may be hybrids, in order to get back to the true UAP story and why it's so secret. Because this will, if the government actually, if the President Biden actually says we're all hybrids and, we're alien hybrids, well, what would happen? The stock market would like plunge. I mean, everything would just collapse, and that can't happen. So you have to have this, what I call this controlled dissemination, a little at a time. Let's talk about, we already know about the craft. Okay, there's things in the air, great. And now, for the first time, somebody in position of authority, like the DNI Avril Haines, said that the extraterrestrial component to this.
So we'll stop here. You should really watch the whole interview out on YouTube. Because frankly,
Okay, thank you. So this man, John Ramirez, begins disseminating largely the same information that Roswell really happened. There was biological entities. We checked their DNA. And here's where it gets problematic. You couldn't check for DNA. They didn't understand DNA or DNA tests in 1947. But did they save those biological samples all this time? And when DNA technology became available, did the comparison? Who knows? There's always plot holes. It's the CIA. They're not perfect. But this former CIA officer comes out right around the time that Lou Elizondo's entire story begins to fall apart. Suddenly, a new player on the field, by the way, doing 100 podcasts. Go Google this man, John Ramirez, CIA. Just Google John Ramirez, CIA UFO. You'll see him do tons and tons and tons of alternative media spreading the same information. And there's another common thread here. Almost all of these people involved in this op are all pushing the idea that the United States is in possession of UFO crash material. We have, let's see, Tom DeLonge of TTSA is certainly pushing that. We have Gary Nolan, who we'll get into next, pushing that there's UFO material. He's analyzing it. And Gary Nolan is the next player sent in on the field. And I believe, and many believe, that he's sent in to replace Lou Elizondo as the major mouthpiece. He's suddenly doing interviews on Tucker Carlson and Australian media. Ross Coulthart, one of my favorite UFO scammers is Ross Coulthart. Gary Nolan teams up with Ross Coulthart, and Ross Coulthart puts out a mini documentary, and in the promos claimed, we have definitive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to Michio Kaku. But the guy who's supposed to confirm that it's really alien-made technology is Gary Nolan, which makes absolutely no sense. Gary Nolan is suddenly on Lex Fridman and other podcasts. And what many people aren't aware of is that, look, I'm sure Gary Nolan's a very smart guy, but he's an immunologist. He's not a materials scientist. You would not take any material to an immunologist and say, can you tell me if this is alien or not? He's simply not that kind of a scientist. So this makes no sense. But Gary Nolan also comes out as an experiencer. By the way, John Ramirez, he's an experiencer. He's seen aliens. Gary Nolan, he's an experiencer. He's seen aliens. Lou Elizondo, I don't know if he's an experiencer, but he has told people that he's got remote viewing superpowers, just like Hal Puthoff claimed to have remote viewing superpowers. This is where things get strange. But another common thread, they're all the people involved in this TTSA op are saying we have UFO materials. We're going to get them analyzed and prove those aliens are real and they're here. And in the case of TTSA, it was garbage material that came from Linda Moulton Howe, the queen of fake UFO and alien stories. But somehow TTSA gets $1 million plus contract with the United States Army to study those materials that were garbage. So John Ramirez, new player on the field, as soon as Lou Elizondo's whole story starts falling apart, he's experienced aliens and contact with extraterrestrials. Then we get Gary Nolan, the new mouthpiece and new player on the field. He's talking about, I'm analyzing UFO materials and we have all this stuff in the lab, right? Let's, again, cite fair use, and we will give you, let's see, where is this at? Gary Nolan talking about UFO materials. Again, this is fair use. We are critiquing the video that we are sharing, and we will be discussing it.
But anyway, you're in possession of some materials of this kind. Can you describe some of them, and maybe also talk to the process of how you investigate them, how do you analyze them?
Right. So let's say that there's two classes of materials that I've been given by people, and they're not given by like the government or anything.
And this should be a bombshell coming here.
Collected them, and there's a reasonable chain of evidence associated with them that you believe is not just a pebble somebody picked up off a road. There are almost always things that people have claimed have either been dropped off as like some sort of a leftover material, molten metals, or they are from an object that was released from this or that kind of exploded. They're almost always metals. I have some couple of things that might be biological that are interesting that I haven't really spent a lot of time on yet. When you...
Did you hear him? He just said that he has some interesting things that may be biological that he hasn't spent a lot of time on. This is the CIA drip disclosure. He's saying or repeating many of the things and the mythology that other people repeat, that we are in possession of some sort of alien biological material, whether that be tissue samples, skin samples, blood. I've heard we have alien blood somewhere in an alien blood bank in an underground base. He just dropped it nonchalantly, like, I might have some biological samples. I haven't spent much time on them yet. Again, in the CIA psyop, people are running around saying that the government is in possession of craft not made of this earth. People closely associated with TTSA, Dr. Eric Davis has said that. Good friend of the quack doctor. They're both quack doctors, by the way. Both Hal Puthoff and Dr. Eric Davis are both quack doctors. Those two are, they ought to be clowns in lab coats, along with Gary Nolan. But they're running around, Dr. Eric Davis running around saying the government, he's briefing people in the government about crash retrievals and craft not made of this earth. Again, part of the psyop, perhaps, and Gary Nolan running around just nonchalantly, oh, I might have biological samples.
Look at a metal, you basically, well, okay, what are the elements in it? And what's it made of?
Yeah. So Gary Nolan becomes the new face of the op after I believe they're kicking Lou Elizondo to the curb. And isn't it interesting that Gary Nolan has been involved in, well, I'm looking at, you'll have to excuse me, friends. I'm looking at my notes and I hate when I second guess myself, so I'm not going to. I'm going to say it very clearly and plainly. Gary Nolan has been involved in several, what I would call, attempts at consumer fraud against the public in relation to UFOs and aliens. I'm not saying anything other than he was involved with two separate things that I believe were scams, 100% scams. And that would be Dr. Stephen Greer and his Atacama humanoid that turned out to be a deformed fetus, right? A deformed human baby. It was not an alien, as many people believed or hyped up it to be. And interestingly, Dr. Stephen Greer made millions of dollars off of that, and he was the person that was supposed to analyze the samples of it, right? So a documentary is made, and Gary Nolan's all chips in. This is probably an alien. Gotta be, oh, it's really strange, right? Yeah, let's make those UFO dollars. And then shortly after the documentary comes out and everyone is already paid, Gary Nolan suddenly announces that the DNA results are back. Why couldn't they wait for the DNA results to be included in the documentary? Oh, because then they wouldn't make millions of dollars pretending that thing was an alien, right? And I have public questions for Gary Nolan, but he's an intellectual weakling and a coward. There, I said it, Gary Nolan. You are an intellectual weakling and a coward, because in the next scam to defraud the public that he was directly involved in, I asked him some questions about the next one. The next scam involved Ross Coulthart, who I believe a strong argument could be made committed consumer fraud by claiming in a promo to a monetized video of his that they had, quote, definitive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man, cut to Michio Kaku. No, that's Michio Kaku had nothing to do with it. There was no definitive proof in that piece. What really happened was, again, CIA Gary was involved in that, what I believe to be a consumer fraud scam. Here's the problem. You cannot deceptively market materials and then put a monetized video up on YouTube. You should lose your whole YouTube channel. But Ross Coulthart still has his. Why? He literally lied in his promos saying they had definitive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by, and then cut to a scene of Michio Kaku. It's super deceptive. Are you saying that you have definitive proof of alien technology, Ross Coulthart, and Michio Kaku is going to confirm it in this monetized piece that you're directing everybody to click on in your promos? Yes, you are. And Ross Coulthart made an awful lot of excuses. And by the way, there's an awful lot of enablers of this kind of fraud within the UFO community, because the usual fraud clown squad, they also help with the CIA ops. Did you not know that? There's some useful idiots that this op uses, you know, the true believer crowd. And so Ross Coulthart goes on all kinds of podcasts, right? And even he says, geez, yeah, those promos were a little too much. And he blames the company that he works for. And really, I think there's no excuse for what he did. It really should be his responsibility. It's his voice in the promo. He recorded that voiceover. Could he have, you know, quit and said, I'm not going to be a party to fraud like this? He said they sensationalized it. It wasn't sensationalized. It was outright lies. And what people don't know about that scam, I'm calling it a scam, Ross Coulthart, you are a scammer. What people don't know about that is the person who was supposed to do the analysis on the ball, it was maybe an alien ball, big alien metal ball, right? The person who was supposed to do the analysis on that was Gary Nolan. And so I asked Gary Nolan what happened with the analysis. He promised, Ross Coulthart said that you have definitive proof of alien technology. And Gary Nolan got nasty with me and then immediately blocked me for asking that question. If you're the person, Gary Nolan, CIA Gary, who is supposed to be doing the analysis to give us the definitive proof of alien technology on Earth that Ross Coulthart already promised us, where's the paper? Where's the analysis? Can we get a printout? You know, can I see it? And Gary Nolan got real pissed off because he knew that they overpromised and underdelivered, and that in truth, Ross Coulthart lied to everyone, and they had nothing. No proof, nothing. And he, this was months ago. He said it was going to take a few weeks to do, I think he said 3 or 4 weeks to do the analysis. So they released this super hyped up documentary promising proof of alien technology. Gary Nolan's directly involved, just like he was directly involved in the Stephen Greer fake alien scam. Gary Nolan is supposed to provide proof of both those things, and in both cases, we get nothing. But Gary Nolan's running around, and I believe strongly, based on all available evidence, that Gary Nolan is the new face of this CIA threat op. Now that Lou Elizondo has been kicked to the curb, right? where has Elizondo been, right? Totally disappeared from view, right? Oh, he's taking a break. Yeah, because his whole story fell apart. Now we got to get a new mouthpiece, and they get Gary Nolan. But before we get to that, I just want to remind everybody of Ross Coulthart and the scam that Gary Nolan was directly involved in concerning this garbage from Ross Coulthart.
I probably would be more cautious about in terms of how we present it is the sphere story, for the simple fact that we just don't know yet whether it is or it isn't non-human technology.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
Frankly, whilst a lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology, we're not going to say that.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology. This renowned scientist confirms it all.
Whilst a lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology, we're not going to say that because that's a terrible danger.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
A lot of people.
Yeah, that's enough. And I do have one more that's kind of funny as well. So Gary Nolan is directly involved in what I can only term as UFO scammers scamming people for fake information, right? And we get the apology tour, right, from Ross Coulthart. He says, well, I think they went a little too far in the promos, right? And all of this was about Jim's balls.
I got scrapings off Jim's balls. I got scrapings off Jim's balls. I got scrapings off Jim's balls. I got scrapings off Jim's balls. I got scrapings off Jim's balls. I got scrapings off Jim's balls. I got scrapings off Jim's balls.
So where's the analysis, Gary Nolan? You guys already promised definitive proof of alien technology, and you're in the promo, looking all sciencey, looking in a microscope, right? Where's the proof, right? There is no proof because Gary Nolan is part of an op.
And can I just say, even though I'm not entirely comfortable at times with the way they sensationalize in their promos, because I thought the promos for our story were a tad over the top at times.
What you're seeing here is momentous. You think that's alien technology?
Yes, I did. I thought the promos for our story were a tad over the top.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
Tad over the top at times.
Is it possible to exceed the speed of light? The answer is yes.
The biggest discovery in human history.
Promos for our story were a tad over the top.
New evidence that has to be seen to be believed. 7 News Spotlight, Sunday on 7 and 7 Plus.
Not entirely comfortable at times with the way they sensationalize in their promos, because I thought the promos for our story were a tad over the top at times.
Yeah, that's not over the top. That's straight lying to people. That, in my opinion, is a form of consumer fraud. You're telling people that you have a documentary that's a true story. You have definitive proof of alien technology. You got Mr. Science Guy, Michio Kaku, that you cut to when you say that. Then you got also Mr. Gary Nolan, CIA Gary here, who, by the way, is a very problematic figure. Why is anybody that's involved in the, let's just say, conspiracy land going to trust a guy who's giving high fives to Dr. Anthony Fauci on his public Twitter, right? None of this makes any sense. So CIA Gary is the new face of disclosure and the new disseminator of what I believe to be false information. He was already involved in huge pushes to put out fake information about aliens and UFOs with Dr. Stephen Greer. Now he pivots and he's working with this Ross Coulthart, who's a clown. This guy is a literal clown from Australia. And one could be right, perhaps, in assuming that he is a CIA asset as well. Because I don't understand a foreign reporter coming into the United States and disseminating 100% provably fake information about UFOs and aliens and profiting from it, greatly profiting from it, without some form of investigation into why is a foreign reporter involved with these CIA people. Why is he disseminating 100% provably fake information for money, claiming that he has its true story? This is very problematic. And one may be right in assuming that he also, Ross Coulthart, has the protection of this X-Protect group. If you or I did that, if I were today to make a promo claiming I had definitive proof of alien technology, click on my next video, and then I put out a video with no proof of anything, I would get thrown off of YouTube and probably arrested for consumer fraud. You can't do these things with no consequences. But we see a common thread in this op is that people get to do these things with no consequences. There's no accountability ever. TTSA raised millions and millions of dollars. How much did Lou Elizondo get paid to be on a television show lying to people with fake videos that weren't what he pretended they were? How much money does Gary Nolan get paid to pretend that a deformed human fetus might be an alien? How much money did he get paid by Ross Coulthart to stand there like a dummy while Ross Coulthart lied to everybody? Lied to everybody saying that he had definitive proof of alien technology. Confirmed by this man. Which man? Michio Kaku or CIA Gary? Which man is going to give us this definitive proof of alien technology you promised us you already have, when the analysis of said alien technology hadn't even begun yet? And I know that through Twitter and asking CIA Gary the question. By the way, CIA Gary, intellectual weakling, coward, doesn't like people that see through the CIA psyop that he's apparently engaged in, so instantly blocks anybody. He's just sitting there, block. Anybody asking any good questions he doesn't want to talk to. And we see this, another common thread that we see is the cult-like protection of these CIA assets, employees, counterintelligence officers, retired CIA people. There is a cult of, I'll just call them a cult of crazies that will viciously attack you on Twitter if you raise the very questions that I am raising tonight. So now what we really have to do, having gone so far down this rabbit hole, and again, I understand if people are like, well, this is all conspiracy. Yeah, it is a conspiracy, but it is a conspiracy with provable, verifiable evidence. Here are some facts. Former CIA agents infiltrated the UFO community starting in 2016. Former counterintelligence officers, Pentagon officials, infiltrated the UFO community starting in 2016. Former contractors of the CIA, in the form of Gary Nolan, infiltrated the UFO community. Former CIA officers, John Ramirez, infiltrated the UFO community. Both Gary Nolan and John Ramirez are experiencers. Jim Semivan as well had an alien experience, the one-time head of TTSA and CIA, perhaps psyop director. Nobody's quite sure who the real head of this thing is. one can argue. These are the facts, that they have infiltrated the UFO community. One has to ask themselves then, for what purpose? Some have decided that one of the purposes is profit, because there's an awful lot of money to be made leveraging your government credentials while sideways telling people that you're going to bring them the truth about those aliens without actually saying it, right? You just imply, and keep collecting the money and stringing everyone along. Kind of like TTSA and CIA Lou did for 4 or 5 years now. CIA Lou has been collecting money from the UFO community for years now in the form of television shows, book deals, conference appearances. Gary Nolan, Christopher Mellon, others have profited greatly from this op. But I believe there's more to this entire op than just pure profit. There has to be some intended purpose. There is a concept in the art of magic called misdirection. This is how, my friends, magic works. And essentially, misdirection is look here, not over here. I will direct you falsely to, I will direct your attention over here so you do not see what I am doing over here. It is a proven concept that works. And I believe, based on an awful lot of rabbit hole dives into deep, dark places everywhere on the internet concerning tonight's topic, that there is some form of misdirection actively being employed here. What are they trying to direct us against? What are they trying to stop us from seeing by making us look over here instead of over there? I have long hypothesized, no, that's not the right word. I have long had a hypothesis that this op and others are a direct and deliberate and willful attempt to direct people's attention away from black budget projects. After all, what better way to misdirect people away from the truth, or what may be the truth, of black budget secret projects than to make people go chase shadows of aliens for years on end and never find any actual verifiable smoking gun evidence or proof of that. We get a lot of tantalizing maybe proof, but we don't get the smoking gun. What is it that they are misdirecting us away from? Is it, as many believe, the UFO file, once called more top secret than anything, more top secret than nuclear secrets? Are they misdirecting us away from the truth? And if so, why are they directing and disseminating absolutely, in some cases, provably false information, all themed around UFOs and alien visitation? We see the common threads. We've got materials. There's been crashes. The government has bodies or tissue samples. Gary Nolan's telling people he may have biological samples. Great, Gary. Why don't you show us the DNA of those alien tissue samples or whatever the hell you're claiming you have? Throw it down the table and say, there's the proof of those aliens, bitches. But he never will. And he can't, because he just doesn't have the goods. Many people have said that there are an incredible amount of layers to this, and these overt practitioners of disinformation, misinformation, and misdirection are simply the foot soldiers. They don't have the secrets. If Lou Elizondo had any secrets, wouldn't he have dropped them by now? It's been 5-6 years since he came out. If Jim Semivan, CIA spook, had any secrets to share, wouldn't he have done so to save the failing TTSA techno scam? Wouldn't Lou have done that? Wouldn't Hal Puthoff have shown us something? They've got nothing. Nothing but lies, nothing but disseminated disinformation, nothing but misinformation. We cannot, we should not, and I, for one, will not allow them to misdirect me from the truth. And that, my friends, is me climbing out of this rabbit hole. And we will be on to investigating bigger, better things. But let me know in the comments and the live chat, what do you think? Why are there so many government operatives here? One point I forgot. I apologize. One point of the presentation that I forgot. Let's see if we can't find something here. 1 second. Recently, another government disinformation agent, I believe that she is now, and I have had careful time to study her, even get to know her more than most people have. That would be one Anjali. And Anjali is a former Defense Intelligence Agency, both direct employee. She had 2 stints with the Defense Intelligence Agency. One, and I have verified all of this, by the way, one of her stints with the Defense Intelligence Agency, she was a counterintelligence person. She was an information warfare specialist. That's right, an information warfare specialist, right? Isn't it strange then that a former Defense Intelligence Agency person whose job it was to do information warfare also suddenly comes in during this op? It's not a coincidence, friends. I don't believe that it was a coincidence. I'm trying to find this. She recently did an appearance on Gaia TV, and one might ask themselves, oh yeah, here we go. I found it. One might ask themselves, remember our coverage of one Anjali here. She made a big press conference in Washington, D.C. that she had experienced aliens in this tunnel, and she was going to lead an expedition back to get proof of the aliens, right? And we busted her. And her entire story fell apart when we found one of the principal witnesses to her so-called alien encounter that night disputed everything she said. Her so-called Wayne and Trisha, by the way, both of them disputed everything that she said. There was no tunnel. There was no aliens. It was all fake information, disinformation. So besides the CIA people, we've also got these other people cooperating in this op, I believe, in the form of other alphabet soup agencies. Anjali is Defense Intelligence Agency twice. Once she was a direct employee, once she was a subcontractor, a government paid contractor that worked for the DIA. And both times her specialty was information warfare. But it gets better than that, because recently she is on a episode of Cosmic Disclosure with Emery Smith. And remember, Emery Smith is a fraud who claims that he did analysis of 3,000 alien tissue samples. But most troubling is the fact that I was in a room with my daughter. 1 second. I'm sorry, besides Emery Smith, here on Cosmic Disclosure, we also have Richard Doty, the original provable, admitted government disinformation agent that infiltrated the UFO community in the 1980s. So it's like they are bringing out all the players onto the field to push this threat op, this alien false information, this narrative. And Richard Doty once literally drove a man crazy with stories of aliens and underground bases and alien communication and alien spaceships. It's the famous Benowitz case. And Richard Doty is back now, but not by himself, because now, as a part of this op, he is helping a information warfare specialist that worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency disseminate what I believe to be 100% fake, false information about alien contact. This is where it gets deeper and deeper and crazier and crazier. Why are all these government agents running around on television suddenly since 2016 talking about aliens? Remember, we've got Gary Nolan, alien experiencer and CIA subcontractor. We've got John Ramirez, alien experiencer and former CIA operative. We've got Jim Semivan, former clandestine, covert, secret agent for the CIA, who is also an alien experiencer. And now we've got Anjali. Oh, we've got Lou Elizondo. He's got superpowers. I don't know that he's an alien experiencer, but he's got superpowers like Hal Puthoff, a counterintelligence Pentagon guy. We've also got Hal Puthoff, former CIA scientist and Scientologist who has superpowers. He's running around spreading UFO and alien stories. And now we've got Anjali with Richard Doty, the original government disinformation agent who infiltrated the UFO community, was one of the contacts for Bill Moore, who was spying on the UFO community for Richard Doty and others within the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. All of these government operatives or former government operatives, all of them running around spreading stories about aliens, UFOs, disclosure, UAP, all since 2016. And I got to say, I think they must be getting desperate because they're pulling Doty out of the CIA drawer to help this Anjali spread her false information. And by the way, this will tell you something strange about the UFO community and how willing people are to just listen to liars, because we here did an intensive investigation into this woman, Anjali, and her claims. You can just search for Anjali in the search bar of our YouTube channel here. Definitively proved that all of her original story was 100% provably fake. There was no tunnel. There were no aliens. She had essentially what I believe to be a drugged out experience on all kinds of different drugs and Rick Simpson oil. At first, she said she wasn't on any drugs that night. Turns out she was on a whole bunch of drugs that night. She had her original alien experience in a tunnel that didn't exist, with witnesses she claimed would corroborate her story, who would not corroborate her story. In fact, they disputed virtually everything she said about that night and her so-called alien experiences. So her story completely and totally fell apart thanks to our diligent investigation and those of others like Charlie Weiser and James A. Conrad, who helped and contributed some information to that effort. And we all found one of their principal witnesses, and I interviewed him, and he said none of this shit happened. Despite her entire original story of alien contact completely and totally disappearing, Anjali is somehow still here and just got a TV show deal with Gaia. Isn't that great? She gets a deal to be one of the Gaia fake information peddling idiots, right? Along with a guy who claims that he autopsied 3,000 aliens. Later, they walked that back and it was analyzed 3,000 alien tissue samples. By the way, that guy's a fallen down drunk who never did anything. He was telling women that he was trying to bang. He was going on secret missions to Antarctica and shit. It was all fake. Great. And then we have her with Richard Doty, the OG, some would say, of government disinformation agents. Remember, he ran an op on Linda Moulton Howe. He ran an op on Paul Benowitz disseminating fake information. Richard Doty also ran an op on one Bill Moore. So it's amazing to me that somehow Richard Doty is holding Twitter spaces and all these stupid people line up to hear what he has to say about aliens and UFOs. He literally ran disinformation agent campaigns against an American citizen that drove the man crazy. Paul Benowitz, look it up. And then he directed Bill Moore to spy on everybody in the UFO community and report back to him and others within the government. And then it gets deeper and deeper with Doty. But Doty has found a new home at Gaia where I don't understand how being a government disinformation agent that drives people crazy for money, in the Benowitz case, Benowitz was seeing early drones, and Richard Doty's job was to direct him away from the drones, misdirect him, and make him believe he was seeing alien spaceships. They broke in the guy's house. They tapped all his phones. They messed with his computer. They made him believe he was getting alien communications and signals, told him all these stories. Dulce Base comes from Richard Doty. The whole story of Dulce Base comes from Richard Doty. Serpo, that whole story comes from Richard Doty. Some say the MJ-12 documents come from Richard Doty. Richard Doty is, despite the fact that, here's what I will say, I liked him as a person. He's very, gregarious, and you just like him. He is the original gangster of government disinformation. Some people also say he's responsible for the MJ-12 documents and all the information that we know about the so-called X-Protect group, those men in black that keep the government secrets. Those MJ-12 documents, many say Richard Doty was the guy who disseminated those. We know for a fact that he disseminated the Serpo files. We know for a fact that he directed people to spy on members of the UFO community. We know for a fact he drove a man crazy with fake alien stories. And here he is now, perhaps as part of this op, started in 2016, this CIA disinformation op, psyop, whatever you want to call it, along with the DIA girl that gets high and sees aliens in tunnels that don't exist. And they are now disseminating more, I believe, fake information about UFOs and aliens. Great. Let's take a listen.
I was in a room with my daughter when I first had the being appear. Okay. She was not able to see the being. I was able to see the being. I could orient him in the room and I could physically see him and where he was located, which was not in my room. Behind him was a completely different place. He was there. I could see him.
Great special effects.
He was doing most of the communicating. It was a very one-way experience.
Was it out loud or telepathic?
All of it. When I say conscious contact, I mean that it was consciousness to consciousness. There was no speech related. There were no sounds.
And there we see Richard Doty, former admitted government disinformation agent, interviewing a former Defense Intelligence Agency employee and Defense Intelligence Agency subcontractor later, whose specialty was information warfare. So we have an information warfare specialist talking about aliens, along with a former admitted government disinformation agent and spy on the UFO community, Richard Doty, disseminating what I believe to be completely fake, false information about UFOs and aliens. And isn't it interesting that Anjali's entire original story was completely shattered as being false? She made it all up, or she was high when she saw those aliens in that tunnel, right? And now she's sitting on a stage with a former admitted government disinformation agent, and she herself is a expert in information warfare, and she's got whole news stories about aliens to tell us.
That was at the very beginning of that interaction. We did get to a point where I got myself together enough that I could ask questions and they would respond. But in the very beginning, it was incredibly difficult for me to even formulate, a thought. I was overwhelmed.
Sure.
I had tears just running down my face, but I wasn't crying. And I kept getting chills all throughout my body. It was an incredibly physically overwhelming and spiritually overwhelming event. And I experienced this 3 more times at the end of 2017, leading into early 2018 in January.
What year was the first contact that you just had?
That kind of contact, the first one was in 2017.
2017.
Yep, in late 2017. So it was late November, December timeframe.
Did the being tell you where he's from? Did he have a name?
This being in my room appeared to be about 4 foot tall. He had spindly arms, a very spindly neck, extremely humanoid, spindly legs.
Boy, they spare no expense over at Gaia TV.
Large eyes. I couldn't see any particular mouth that was visible, and very slight nose.
Move on then. And this is fair use. We'll be discussing and critiquing the video that we have just shared from Gaia TV. This is very, very problematic. And here we have two more players on the field. And did you catch that she started having alien experiences in 2017? I'm going to have to check, but I can at least tell you with some degree of certainty that John Ramirez, former CIA agent, and also Gary Nolan recently began talking about their experiences with aliens. So we've got Anjali coming on the field, information warfare specialist. We've got Richard Doty, former government disinformation agent, interviewing her. We've got John Ramirez, former CIA operative, talking about his alien experiences and sharing what he is purporting to be true information about alien contact that the government knows about, that we are somehow mixed with alien DNA and they're mixed with ours, and that's the reason they're contacting us. We've got Gary Nolan, wonderful clown scientist. He's a clown. Gary Nolan is a clown in a lab coat who is dancing around telling everybody that he may have alien materials. He's had alien experiences. And by the way, he admittedly worked with or for the CIA. We've got Lou Elizondo, former counterintelligence officer at the Pentagon, going to great lengths to lie or mislead or tell falsehoods to major members of the media in the United States. Is it legal for all these intelligence people to be manipulating American citizens and members of the media this way? I don't know. It's a good question. So I would like we will now move on and have a discussion with the live chat. I think that we have proved our point here, in that it is a factual statement to say that government agents and or former government agents and or government contractors, either former government contractors or present government contractors, have since 2016 openly infiltrated, manipulated, and disseminated information into the UFO community. That we know for a fact. The problem now becomes in digging deeper past the surface of these, some would say, nefarious actions, and find what is their purpose here. Why are so many government, CIA or DIA or Air Force intelligence people all suddenly having alien experiences and coming out publicly talking about those alien experiences, talking about how the government may have crashed material? it's all very, very curious. It's like Alice in Wonderland. The deeper and deeper you go, the curiouser and curiouser it becomes. And we have seen, I have been watching this, and I have some further analysis on this whole situation, including what I believe will be a breathtaking gotcha moment. However, given the length of our presentation tonight, I will be doing a part 2 on this. I have unloaded most of my observations about what I believe to be an illegal government operation perpetrated against members of the American citizenry, you know, and members of the media. Why are they doing this? Are they legally allowed? Is the government allowed to just do these type of things? Should they be allowed to be? I'm left with more questions I have than answers that I could give you. But I believe that I have reached some incredible conclusions that we will be revealing in a second part to this endeavor. So we will take a moment to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors. I apologize once again during the presentation. If you send a super chat or help us out, we love and appreciate you. We read every single super chat. And you know what? Here's what we're going to do. I am going to look those up. And we have some exciting new announcements about the show here. 1 second. You know what we're going to do? So you guys know this. If you're a new viewer or listener, we do presentations on different topics. And during those presentations, it's kind of difficult for me to stop and read the super chats as they're coming in. So we read them towards the end. We read every single super chat. There's other ways that you can help us out. And I want to thank Mr. Ian, kind and generous show supporter, for becoming our new show announcer. So I don't have to rattle off how to support us. I'll let him do that tonight. And when we come right back, we're just going to take this is a super short bumper break. When we come right back, I'm going to read every single super chat. If you're feeling generous, get them in now. We'll have time for discussion and comments and questions from the live chat. Please put them in all capital letters. I'll be right back. Here's Ian to let you know how you can support the show here.
Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Cambion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support.
And we're back. And I have some kind and generous benefactors and people to thank. Let me share my screen. We read every single super chat here. We thank everybody. If you don't have an account to do so on YouTube, you can also use Cash App or PayPal, instructions in the description of the video. And we thank all of our Patreon supporters and our channel members as well. Oops, 1 second. Wrong one. Let me get the right one. Okay, we want to thank Richard Crawley for a kind and generous $2.79 Canadian, who says, check your DNA, Stephen. Ask Nolan to do it. No, I don't think I'll be giving any of my DNA to any UFO crazy people or alien experiencers. We've seen what happens when you give your DNA to people like Chris Bledsoe. Not sharing my DNA. Richard Crawley with another kind and generous Canadian $2.79 says, killing it tonight, Steve. And the MVP of Super Chatters tonight, Richard Crawley, another $2.79 says, always enjoy the effort you give us. Well, thank you very much, Richard Crawley, longtime show supporter. Longtime show supporter. This has been on my mind for years now, and I'm glad to lighten my mental burden on all of you. So now, instead of me thinking and worrying about all this stuff, all of you guys can share in the fun here. Heather Birdie is here. Welcome, Heather Birdie. Here's a little money for you. Here's a little UFO money for you, Cambiant. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Kind and generous, $2. And Richard Crawley with a $6.99 Canadian, just a thumbs up. And then there's, of course, UFO John Doe from yesterday, Victor Wag from yesterday, Spooky from yesterday, Phil Ward, Complizard, Ash Dobbs, Moonlick, Lord Ludacris, Anthony Peterson, Salty Bits, Inzane, Event Time, Lord Ludacris, Connor Brady, ZZYZX, Al Warrior, Paranormal Highway, Salty Bits, Spooky, Unidentified S4, and more. We thank all of our kind and generous benefactors. We appreciate you. Thank you for helping make the show go. Yeah, 1 second here. So any questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. I've got a little more time to share with you tonight, but I do have an exciting announcement, something I'm excited about. I don't know if you guys will be, but I'm very excited about this. Given the problems that many are experiencing in the form of censorship, we have taken steps to ensure that all of our efforts here will not be in vain. Sadly, I was reminded recently of an incredible content producer called Mouthy Buddha, who perhaps ventured into certain subjects that he should have avoided if he wanted to maintain his platform. Besides him, I know of several lesser known content producers who were suddenly just deleted from their chosen distribution platform, whatever that may be. We are very concerned here with the increase in censorship and things like that. Here's UFO John Doe, kind and generous, $49. If you had to be locked in a cell for 1 year with one of these UFO nut jobs, who are you doing it with? Whoa, that's a tough question, UFO John Doe, and a great question. I'd have to think about that. I think that the most interesting guy, if I had to be locked in a cell with the guy, it would probably be Richard Doty. I get in fights with Eric. You know, Eric, the Awakening Man. Well, not really, not fights, but we could disagree. Eric just went after John from the Black Vault because John disseminated some information that was public information. It was redacted or something, and he went after him on Twitter. And Eric is a big fan of Richard Doty. I am not somebody who believes Richard Doty is telling me the truth. I am, however, still fascinated with Richard Doty given his connection to the UFO file. It can be argued that Richard Doty and his family, including his uncle and his father, And I believe the uncle was his father's brother, not his mother's brother. But I could be wrong on that. In any case, his uncle worked on the UFO file. His father worked on the UFO file for the U.S. government. And Richard Doty has verifiably worked on the UFO file or with the UFO file. So if I had to be stuck with one guy, and also Richard Doty is, here's my take on Richard Doty UFO John Doe and why I think he's fascinating. I think that Richard Doty is the world's best UFO troll, alien guy troll. That's what I think. I think Richard Doty gets some perverse pleasure or thrill out of creating fake UFO stories and then putting them out and seeing all what he probably perceives to be stupid people lapping it up. You know, he has verifiably been responsible for so much more UFO mythology and accepted beliefs in the UFO and alien belief system, if you could call it that, came from Richard Doty than any other individual. Verifiably, all the stories about Dulce Base, the alien base under Dulce, New Mexico, and that mountain, you know, the experiments, all came from Richard Doty. That was information that he disseminated to Paul Benowitz when he was trying to misdirect him away from the truth. The Serpo story. The Serpo story is essentially a Close Encounters movie. Some aliens came here. There was an exchange program. They left some of their aliens here. They took our people onto a spaceship to their home planet. And then only a few came back. Some died on the planet. Some chose to stay on the planet. It was an exchange program, you know, between the aliens and us. And that was this whole shadowy operation where there was some shadowy fake person that was supposed to be a government insider disseminating the documents and the story of Serpo. Well, some very crafty computer science people got together, investigated Richard Doty, and found that all of the Serpo documents and stories were coming from his verified IP. In other words, it came from Richard Doty's computer. Regardless of whose name was on it, what false identity Richard Doty was using, and I believe that 100%, Richard Doty wrote and disseminated those Serpo files. So we've got Dulce Base, Richard Doty. We've got tons of stories about aliens tinkering with our DNA in the distant past. He disseminated that information to Linda Moulton Howe. It made its way into Bob Lazar's story. We've got the MJ-12 documents, who many people swear, there's at least one researcher who swears to me that he can trace all the MJ-12 documents directly to Richard Doty and a typewriter that Richard Doty used. A typewriter is like a fingerprint, you know, you can, anyway, Richard Doty has contributed, whether the stories are fake or not. I think they're all fake, Richard Doty stories, but he has injected all of these stories into the UFO community that are now largely accepted as factual and true. We've got MJ-12, that secret shadow group that controls the UFO file. We've got alien bases in Dulce, New Mexico. You know, we've got aliens tinkering with our DNA in the distant past. Many people believe all of that information. Oh, alien crashes, alien crash retrievals. That was in the information that he disseminated to Linda Moulton Howe way back in the day in the early 1980s or middle 1980s. All of that information that he put out and injected into the UFO community is now, to many believers, more or less just established that that's all true. So he's an interesting character. All right. Questions or comments, please put them in all capital letters. YouTube sync is about 1/3 complete. That's out of 178 videos. Oh, thank you. You reminded me of my announcement, and you could thank me later for that. So given the increased censorship, we now, not sure how long it's going to take to complete, but we are migrating our entire catalog, everything that we have ever produced here. It is some, I believe, if my analysis earlier was correct, there are 740, what would be 741 now, live Truth Seekers streams or shows on our YouTube channel, and some 110 produced videos that we uploaded that weren't, a live broadcast. So that's almost 800. It's more than 850 pieces of media. All of that, every single piece, all 850 plus videos are all being migrated over to Rumble. And you or anyone will be able to access every single one of our shows from our YouTube channel, from our Twitter channel, from our Facebook. The show will be going forward. Every single show will be on Rumble. And also, I'm in communication with some people at Odyssey, because we did have a mirror of every single Truth Seeker show on Odyssey, but it appears to be some kind of technical issues there, and the shows are no longer auto importing. I'd have to manually upload them. But we've reached a solution for many of the problems that we've been having, creating this, I call it the Spectral Distribution Network. My company is now primarily going to be a media company, so we need good distribution. So along with this Rumble change is going to be a new focus on always providing to the alternative platforms like BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble every single show of ours. And to make that effort happen requires some changes, and we are working on those changes as we speak. But soon, probably by next week at the latest, we will be streaming or broadcasting live to many, many platforms at once. We'll be going to at least 2, maybe more, separate Facebook pages: Twitter, Twitch, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, everything. And that will all be broadcasting live. In other words, if we're going to be live on YouTube, we'll be live on Rumble. We'll be live on Odyssey. We'll be live on Twitter. We'll be live on Facebook. We'll be live on Twitch. We'll be live on Odyssey. We'll be live everywhere we can be, all at once. This will alleviate the terrible drudge task of trying to finish a show here and then upload the show when it's finished broadcasting to these alternative platforms. I freely and fully admit I tried to do that and it just didn't work. It's enough work to try to get the audio podcast uploaded and, to the audio podcast. And also, just a reminder, besides the video distribution, part of our distribution network is also through Spreaker. And if you're wanting to listen to Truth Seekers as an audio podcast, we're now available on Spreaker Podcast Player, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Good Pods, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and GeoSaven. So we just keep growing here, and I like to. Now it's almost over, right? Or it is over. So I could say this. Truth Seekers is spreading like a virus. And I'll have new announcements as well. That's great and incredible news for our show here and for growing our show. And I can't wait. I can't wait. It looks like things, we're turning a big corner here. Someone commented that people say things like, "Oh, it's too bad you're shadow banned, Stephen," or "Oh, you're they're limiting your reach," or I don't know that I believe any of that. We have experienced slow, steady growth since we began the show. We will continue, but it does seem like the momentum of subscribers is picking up. We're getting more than we used to in an average week or month or day now, even. And that may have something to do with our distribution efforts or with more people hearing about us. But I do want to encourage you, please, 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 besides throwing money at us, the best way that you can help us is to share these videos on your social media. Follow me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion. And by all means, if you are listening to us on in audio podcast land, you're missing half the fun. Please do go on over to YouTube, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar. Look for me, the strange guy with sunglasses, and that would mean you found us. Go to that channel, the Truthseekers YouTube channel. Smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you too will know when we're doing a live show and live taping for the podcast, and you can come here and be a part of it. We take questions and comments. You can ask our guests questions. We love and appreciate all you people in audio podcast land, but want you to come and be a part of the live tapings. You are most welcome here. Okay, so questions or comments for me, please put them in. What is it that I have to watch? You have to watch before you sign off. Censored from YouTube would be a good Rumble playlist. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And while I am here, I do have to check in with the PayPal and the Cash App just in case. We love and thank every one of you kind and generous benefactors. We want to thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. What is that? This doesn't make sense. I'm trying to find if we had any tonight. PayPal never works when I need it to. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I don't. I want to see transactions. Why don't I see transactions? One second, friends. Just bear with me. Okay, I wasn't looking in the right place. So recent activity. Last person was from Sweet Caroline. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Again, Sweet Caroline, Mikey DB, Mike Kane, Mike C, Venny Coxis, Dave DB, Blaine, John, Mikey. Thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. We have a great support system here. Yeah, and so questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. Some of you know that I'm visually impaired, and that really, really does help a lot. MJ, let me know what it is. Oh, Lazar movie. Yeah, I've seen it. Somebody made a movie trailer for a Lazar movie, and it's from different footage and things. It's not a real movie that's being made, but the guy did a good job. I'll give him that. I have watched it, MJ. Channel Warhawk says, thank you, Stephen. Yes, it is. Yeah, and Ron, I'm aware of what Rumble is saying. Also wanted to, yeah, we have the multicam setup is working in here more or less, but since it's such a mess in here, I'm only going to use 2 of them. We have like 6 now. Can't wait to get them working. Mr. Eon is calling all billy goats. Please be aware the local radar has detected a troll attempting to cross our bridge. Yeah, I don't know. Isn't it funny, Mr. Ian, that now people don't wait until my show's over to rip me off? They rip off my show before I do it now. It's great. It's great. But we do it better. We always do it better, so I don't mind, right? I don't mind some rambling. I was going to use a derogatory term, but I won't. Yeah, so tomorrow night we're going to be back at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and despite my better judgment, we will be talking UFOs again. We've got Steve Long. Some of you may remember him, very smart young man and good analyst. He's really plugged into all things UFO. And let me get to my Twitter. I'll tell you exactly what it is that we'll be talking about tomorrow night. Good stuff, though. Yeah, and some of you noticed that also. One second. I forgot to put me on Do Not Disturb again. 1 second. Let me do that. And so Steve Long will be here tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And some of the stuff that he's been working on lately is Pascagoula, Rendlesham Forest, Burroughs, Skinwalker, and of course, black triangles. He himself had an experience seeing a black triangle. That's what got him down the rabbit hole. He'll be here tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you're going to be here. Hope you're going to be here with us. Simon Fly says Steve Long is great. Yeah, do you know, occasionally, I don't want to say, look, I had low expectations. I heard him on a podcast. I thought, yeah, he's pretty smart. Well, but he was on, I think he was, as I recall, wherever I heard him first, he was on like a panel or something. So he didn't get to talk very much. Then we brought him here and he blew everybody away. And he's one of the most requested guests that people say, can you get that guest again? Is Steve Long. So I think he's a smart guy, a good analyst, and he's got a good handle on what's really going on. So we're going to have him here tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we invite you to be here with us as well. And I hope that you will be. Jemmet Malibu is here and says Steve is great. Yeah, and also we want to remind you the best way to keep in touch here is really through Twitter. So follow me at Stephen Cambion on Twitter. I don't know what's going on with Twitter because I see people. Does anybody know? Am I just crazy? Oh no, it went up by 1. I see, this person followed you, this person followed you, like 3 new followers in a day, and it's been stuck at the same number of followers for months, right? I don't know what that's about. And, we should do a show just talking about the Twitter eruption with Elon Musk. Does anybody else think that Elon Musk is wrong for firing people that are going after him on Twitter that work for him? Let's say I worked for Corporation Z and their CEO was named John Smith. I can't, as an employee of that company, trash the CEO. I would get fired. But somehow these entitled Twitter brats who have worked there since previous to Elon Musk purchasing the company think that they can trash him on the very platform they work for that he is now the owner of with no consequences. Like there is, it's great. The Android developer went after him. Like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and things like that. Like and then people are freaking out. Like, how dare Elon Musk fire people? Isn't he here to give us free speech? Well, everybody has free speech, but you can't say stupid things. I actually have a relative that was fired for saying things on Facebook about derogatory about their job. You can't do that, right? You can't trash the CEO of your company openly and publicly on social media and keep your job. Not in any normal company, but these entitled Twitter brats, they think that, they can say whatever they want with no consequences. He's firing them for doing that. And, I think most of me would do the same thing. Like, look, you're either going to be on the team or off of it. I don't need the dead weight. I'm paying your salary. And who's stupid enough to run around talking trash on the guy signing your check? Oh, well, let's be clear. Elon Musk isn't actually signing people's checks, but you know what I mean. He's giving them their paycheck and they're trashing him openly on the very platform that they work for, that he bought. I think that people who are dumb enough to do that deserve to be fired. You would be fired. I would be fired if we openly trashed the CEO of a company we worked for on social media. Eventually, they'd find out, right? And then he ended the free lunch, and people that work for Twitter lost their goddamn minds. Oh my God, I'm going to have to pay for my own lunch now? And to be clear, the food service at Twitter headquarters was like wasting millions of dollars a year. It was real posh, and people were like, I personally know a story about somebody who doesn't work in the office, but works there. And he would go in there and take like 3 plates of food home with him every day. And he wouldn't work in the office. He would just go in there, take the free food, take it home, microwave it, whatever, like, why buy food? If you're a bachelor living by yourself, that's awesome. You got this place that has beautiful, wonderful catered food every day. So he would just go in there for 10 minutes. Hey, how you doing? Here's my badge. I work here. Not in the office, but, get the free food and run home with it. He wouldn't buy any groceries or any food. He was just going there and grubbing the free meals at Twitter. And so Elon Musk ends all of this, and suddenly they're losing their goddamn mind. You mean we're going to have to buy our own lunch? That's the real world, dude. Welcome to it. They must have never heard that saying, there is no free lunch. Yeah, so comments or questions, please put them in all capital letters. Otherwise, I'm going to bounce on out of here. Somebody asked about the guitars. One is an acoustic, and one is I have a literal no-name electric guitar over there. But it sounds good. It plays great, and I've never been one to care about labels. What do I think about Marina Sarin hot picks? I don't know if you've heard, but Marina Sarin is in love with me. A lot of people are telling me that. I think that it's true. This is so funny. I don't know why she hasn't blocked me yet. I'm going to share this. She's a good sport. I'll give her that, even though she's a Nazi. Or a Nazi sympathizer. I don't know what the correct term is. All right. So Marina Sarin says on Twitter, she wrote, military men are very sexy. And I wrote back, I think you may prefer certain military uniforms. And I used a GIF of a World War II Nazi soldier. And she says, I mean, it's Hugo Boss. Like, she's agreeing with me. Her favorite uniform man is a man in a Nazi uniform. Like, you can't make this stuff up. She said, yeah, I mean, it's Hugo Boss, right? Crazy that she hasn't blocked me or something. Amazing stuff, right? Yeah, and Patty says snowflakes. I don't like that term, or the other term. What do I use? Libtard, people say, or I don't really like those kind of derogatory terms, because some of them, I don't know. I don't know. Patty, I forget that people grew up differently than me. Like, I grew up in a blue collar working class family, and despite escaping the drudgery of like factory work, like many of my family, or trades, that's big in my family too. People learn a trade like carpentry or plumbing or painting or, construction, roofing. Oh, roofing is terrible, Patty. I lasted like half a day doing roofing once. Yeah, it's terrible. So, despite, I knew early on, Patty, I said, I'm going to have to work with my mind. I can't do this physical stuff. I tried. I was terrible at it. And but I came from a very blue collar working class family, and I forget that a lot of people are very, very entitled. I can see a huge difference just even in my own children. My kids are spoiled, like and I think that many of these Twitter people are spoiled. They were spoiled children from rich families or something, because they've all got, a lot of them have got master's degrees and PhDs and things. And I don't know what it is, but there does seem to be, I'm now going to be the get off my lawn old guy, right? There does seem to be a disconnect with younger people I see and a work ethic. It just doesn't seem to be there. But then I think maybe they just grew up different than me, and they didn't learn that work ethic. I don't know what it is, but there is certainly a lot of these Twitter guys, you could see they're like entitled. Like, you can't fire me. I've worked here for 10 years. I could say whatever I want. Sure you can. And then Elon Musk will fire you, dummy. It's incredible. B. Baker says Hugo Boss did do the Nazi uniforms. Yeah. That's exactly right. A lot of people don't know that, but Hugo Boss was the original designer of all of the Nazi uniforms, right? Mr. Ian says, maybe it's just situational, but she's really nice to me. Well, maybe she's one of the good Nazis, Mr. Ian, right? Maybe she's one of the good Nazis, right? And what do I think of her pictures? I think if they weren't, somebody did ask what I think of her pictures. Sorry to get sidetracked. So if I didn't know her and her pictures were not Nazi themed, I would probably like them. But knowing that she's like that and that a lot of her photos are themed to be her being a Nazi girl, a real Nazi girl, whatever, no, I don't like them. I think that's hurtful and hateful to victims of the Holocaust to dress up like a Nazi girl and take hotsy totsy sexy pictures on Instagram. Yeah, Mr. Ian says Nazis killed my granddad. Sorry to hear that. I'm sure I have family that was in the, I'm Polish, so I have family that was in that war or part of the Polish resistance. Or yeah. Patty says entitlement attitude. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. So just realize we're just over 2 hours, 30 minutes, trying to keep the shows shorter. You can never please all the people all the time. If the show's not long enough, people complain. If the show's too long, people complain. Spooky says, clean your room. Yeah, I am. I'm gonna. There's some junk around here, and I have to before I could use the other two cameras. And I have two computers, one on each side with these huge screens that I have to, I don't know what happened. Like, I moved into the garage and everything here worked when I left. And now, like, one of them, the screen's not going on. The other one, the computer's not going on. So I have to mess with them tonight. I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to listen to some great music, and I'm going to get that done. And we're going to get this distribution network off the ground as early as this week. Worst case scenario, by next week, we'll be up and streaming to all these different platforms at once. And some other increases in our distribution are coming. Hopefully that will give us a little bump up. And so we're going to have the multi-camera setup finally working here. So two huge things off my to-do list. For those two, I should remind everybody that this weekend on the 19th, Saturday, the 19th, we're going to be doing a special simulcast, TriCast. We will be broadcasting live to all three channels. Ron from Cosmic Neighbors, Anthony from Unidentified S4, and me, Steve Cambian with Truthseekers. We're all going to be broadcasting live at the same time from the Apocalypse Cabin. We'll be doing a sky watch with these crazy cameras those guys got, including FLIR and night vision. And we're going to see if we can't get some better footage of all the strange lights that I see in the sky there late at night at the cabin. And you're welcome to join us. Times will be announced. I have to talk to those guys to see exactly when we're going to do that. The side with the best uniform loses. Could be. You remember G.I. Joe? Cobra had the cooler uniform. Cobra had much cooler uniforms. G.I. Joe didn't even have uniforms. All those G.I. Joe guys wore whatever they wanted, apparently. But Cobra had cool uniforms, and they always lost. So it is what it is, right? Yeah. 1 second here. So we will be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, with our friend, former guest, and going to be guest tomorrow night, Steve Long, and we're going to be talking about Pascagoula. We're going to be talking about Rendlesham Forest and Black Triangle UFOs. I hope you're going to join us. If you missed him the first time, you can just look up Steve Long, use the search bar here on our channel. He did a great, had a great talk with him last time. Great, real smart guy. He has his finger on the pulse of this thing. And I'm going to pick his brain tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Channel Warhorse is here and says, the past days, Albert Einstein's 1-inch unity culture is destroyed last century. He gave the secret of how the UFOs go by exact solution to general relativity. Exact solution to math. Wow. Yeah. Well, if you know the formula, send it to me, because I'd like to be a billionaire. And if I can crack anti-gravity, I would be. So, I don't know what that's about. Archaic Revival says, good show. Fun show tonight. Keep up the good stuff. Okay, good to know. Okay, so Anthony and I are getting there around 4 or 5 p.m. That's great. We'll probably start around 8 or 9 p.m. then maybe, guys. It depends. Yeah, I don't want to just rush you. Okay, welcome. Get out there. We're doing a sky watch. You know, come eat dinner, relax a little while, and then we'll get started. I'll get that we got a bonfire. I have all the... Anyway, we're going to have a bonfire with these guys, do a sky watch, because these guys are dummies. I told you to come earlier, Ron from Cosmic Neighbors. Last week, it was 45 at night. This week, it's going to be 15 or 20. Great. And we're going to be outside there for hours. But don't worry. I've got a whole bunch of scrap wood and crap wood and campfire wood. I'm not wasting the good stuff on you clowns. No, we're having a bonfire. You know how it is. When you have a bonfire, you just throw a bunch of stuff, you know. Marcus Lamper, like how you trash Goofon. He's annoying. Yeah, unfortunately, I found something out. It's bad news for him. I told him to keep my name out of his mouth, and he won't do it. Like, I think the guy just likes me covering him and the fraud squad, Third Phase of Moon, that he works for. But now he is going to make me cover them again. And I have got another news story about one of their hoaxes that will be broadcasting very soon, because he won't keep my name out of his mouth. Here's him. Now he's attacking Ollie from Alien Addict, and everybody predicted that he was going to stab Ollie in the back next, and here he is stabbing Ollie from Alien Addict in the back. Ollie only cares about his numbers, drama and drama. That's why he can't stop talking about Third Phase of Moon like Scambian. When have I ever scammed anybody? Why are you implying that I'm a scammer in a public YouTube post, you asshole? Are you that stupid? You just called me a scammer in public. That's slander, Rich. What proof do you have that I've ever scammed anyone or lied to anyone? Meanwhile, we've got overwhelming evidence that you participated in and were complicit in a fraud with your third phase of fraudster friends. And we have proven time and time again that you keep lying to your audience. And somebody is attacking him here for that's facts. You have no facts proving Gigi has or has not cancer. Yeah, I guess we're going to have to do another story, because this guy is stupid enough to continue to disparage me publicly. You don't get to do that, Rich. You don't get to do that. I'm the guy who caught you working for fraudsters. I'm the guy who caught you lying to your audience over and over and over again. Don't you dare disparage me on a public post like that, you dummy, or there's going to be consequences for you, not the least of which is going to be our continued coverage. So, hey, third phase of moon, your dummy idiot attack dog Rich did it again. I told him to keep my name out of his mouth. He won't do it. He won't shut up. He keeps on slandering me, libeling me, disparaging me, attempting to damage my reputation. For what? For telling the truth when he lied? This clown went around running around calling people the P word. I don't want to say that word anymore on our stream. He has attacked my family, my dead father, my wife, my children. And now he's calling me Scambian. Well, I've got news for you, Rich. You can't do that. I'm no longer going to just sit back and take stupid shit like that from you. First of all, I will be now covering third phase again because you did that. I'm going to notify them that the reason the next story about them perpetrating a UFO hoax fraud and defrauding YouTube out of money and the public is going to be because you did that. So congratulations, you did it again, you dummy. And that's kind of like where I'm at, right? That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, Mr. Ian says, considering Steve makes a point of exposing hoaxers as a truth seeker, how is it scamming? It's a direct attempt to slander me, to damage my reputation. Just like him suggesting that I have friends that have, let's just say, problems with children, and that may mean I have problems with children. All of the stuff that he did after that conversation about the fake UFO and them knowingly posting a fake UFO. He knew that we were right about third phase of moon not changing the entire time. He spread all those malicious rumors, attacked people's families, made fun of somebody with cancer. All that stuff was while he knew that we were all right. So, you know, it is what it is. Good. More people should. Eyes Wide Open says, I just unsubbed from Goofball. Thanks for informing the audience. Well, thank you for your kindness. I appreciate people doing the right thing. People should not support a known, proven liar, a known, proven hoax promoter. He promotes third phase of moon hoaxes on his show. That's what he does. That's what his function is. Oh, great. More Baroque, meme-tastic renditions of crappy humans. I'm glad my art process is protected by grit. Okay. Yeah. I saw some of Spooky, for those unaware, was on Strange Recon with the Crystal Hippie bitches earlier. So check out Strange Recon on YouTube. I got to watch some of it here, but then I got busy with my children. Maybe I'll finish it later. Interesting conversation, always interesting show with those Crystal Hippie bitches and Spooky, and Strange Recon is a good show. Support good shows and do not support crap shows like Goof-Ons. Portal to Ascension, they're recruiting this Starseed or hybrid. Yeah, and they're sending me spam too. Somehow Portal to Ascension got my email address, and now they send me spam trying to get me to buy the stupid fake information that those guys disseminate. They're trying to get me to buy it. They're sending me all kinds of spam every day. It's great. Patty says, just come to Florida. It's not cold here. Oh, I wish I could. I'm going to retire there, I think. I don't really like winter. I hate winter. In fact, it just kind of felt like it started here a couple of days ago. It's just getting really cold now. And it was really cold at the cabin on Sunday. My involvement with Goof-On and the Pfister show almost led to a full nervous breakdown. These charlatans ought to be ousted from YouTube. Can't say I disagree. Can't say I disagree, right? Yeah. So what can I say, friends? I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to thank our kind and generous benefactors, our Patreon supporters, Cash Appers, PayPal donators, Patreon supporters, super chatters. Thank you, super thanksers, and all of you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We also want to be sure we thank our chat room moderators for keeping things civil. Nobody got out of line today. Those guys do a good job, and they're the unsung heroes of the show. Thanks to Spooky for the excellent graphics and always being there to lend a hand, and all of you kind people for coming here and letting me lighten my load. Spooky says, hit that like button. Thank God for Spooky. Did I give S4 his card reading? No, I'm not giving any card readings. Not today, anyway. So, look, that's all I got for you. Thank you for letting me lighten my mental bandwidth here. There's too much going on here. Tonight, we did a pretty good dump of what I have been observing here in the UFO community. We will, like I said, be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time with special guest Steve Long. We'll be doing the UFO report with Steve Long tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome you to be here. So, well, I guess I should change that, right? I don't know how to work this stuff. There we go. That's better. So that's all we got for you for tonight. And I am so thankful for every one of you supporters. I've been getting a lot of kind messages in the comments. I'm going to try to keep replying to them. Thank you all for your kindness, continued encouragement, and support. We've got some big stories coming here. We've got some great news about our new improved and increased distribution that should really improve our numbers all around, and some exciting projects on the way to you. Can't wait to bring them to you. And while there's no place I would rather be, I gotta do what Spooky said and clean this room. Definitely. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, good night and God bless all of you, even you CIA agents.